anxious.
Why do you feel anxious?
Because I know.
Because you know. Thank you for sharing.
So one thing I know about you is that you make people feel special when you're around. So you say you've been through a lot of challenges in your life. How have those encounters and those experiences impacted the way that you interact with people?
So when it comes to my grandparents, I was with them until I was about 7 years old. They were the only people that I really knew, including my uncle, David. He was with us as well. My grandfather had a very loving and tender way of speaking to my grandmother, embracing my grandmother. When I think of them and I think about the way they spoke to me and the way they loved on me, it helped me evaluate the way that I saw the relationships I endured growing up. When I start thinking about my early childhood and my example of love and safety, I realized that that was not what I was experiencing, which put me in a space of reevaluating the way that I was doing things, the way that I was thinking, and the way that I was feeling. And their blueprint to love and safety has allowed me to become the woman that I am today. During my experiences with abuse, physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, I didn't know that I was being abused. So going through it felt like a norm. Going through it felt like that's something that everyone experiences. And since I didn't have anything to compare what I was experiencing to, I guess I accepted what was happening to me. It wasn't until I began to think about who I wanted to become and how I wanted to live my life that I started searching for an understanding of the things that I experienced. And that is when I realized that I was being abused. And the first thing I did when I started to come across new information was I cried. I cried because it was hurtful. I cried because these were people that said they loved me. I cried because I had no understanding of what I was going to do with that information after learning that what I was experiencing, no one should have experienced. But what I will also say is it taught me how to be kinder to myself and to others, and to be able to recognize when other people are in a loop of abuse. So the relationship with my family, it evolved. It evolved into a separation. Some of the abuse I experienced as a child was first encountered by people that were family friends. My mom was in this relationship where my sister and I moved into a house full of people, and the men that were in that house were the ones who initially started doing things to me that were inappropriate. There were adults who knew about it, and I didn't know that they knew at that time that it was happening, and there were adults who were a part of it, right? And those relationships shifted. Some of the people are deceased. And when it comes to my blood relatives, some of the abuse happened while they were in the same house, unresponsive, due to them being intoxicated. And those relationships have been severed. Not because that's what I wanted. I did try to reach out. I did try to include them in activities and my accomplishments, especially during my undergraduate process. I wanted my family to be there, and I wanted my family to see me and to love me and to accept me and to just show me the love that I didn't receive as a child. And it didn't happen that way. And I used to be upset and cry so much when I would go on social media and see that they had family events, or that it was a barbecue, or they were just getting together and I wasn't offered an invitation. I would think that it was something that I did or something that was wrong with me, until I realized that if I was to go into these spaces, what would we discuss? If I was to join them in their celebrations, how would I be able to communicate with them the things that were unsettling for me, or the things that I was discussing in therapy? And the last thought that I had was, why should I give so much of my energy and my tears to a situation and to people who have the ability to contact me if they needed to, right? I stopped feeling sad about myself and stopped looking for ways to be accepted by them, and began to look at who I wanted to become. And I started walking in those steps. So the relationship with my family is not what I want it to be, but it is what the Creator has designed it to be.
You think you better than me? Fucking kill you before you leave me. Fucking kill you. I'll fucking kill you before you leave. You think you better than me? You'll never be better than me, and you'll never find nobody better than me.
So I had my beautiful niece with me, and during her time with me, he became very jealous. And he came, I remember it very vividly. He came down the steps, and my niece and I were playing, and I was holding her. She was really little. Like I said, she was a premature baby, so she's always been tiny. And so he was like, you love this bitch more than me? And like, I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, you paying her more attention than you actually are paying me any attention. And so I was holding her, and he took her and threw her. The good thing is, the way that he threw her, she didn't hit the wall, but she could have hit the wall. That was the turning point for me. When she stood up and she said, don't hit my mommy, because she called me mommy and not auntie at that time. In my mind, I said, if this itty bitty chocolate drop can stand up to this man, why can't I? So that was the turning point for me caring about her safety and her well-being, and me realizing that I can be strong and I could figure out a way to get out of it. And her doing that for me gave me the strength that I needed to make that my reality and to get out of there. The first step that I took was acknowledging that I needed help. And the way that I found out that I needed help, I was in class one day. I can remember the class. It was Person and Environment. It was my first class in social work, in my social work program. And we had to do like an interview with our mothers about things that they experienced, and just about their lives. So My mother and I are not as close, but she was available for me to do the interview. And when we got back to the class the following week, everyone started sharing their stories. And during sharing time, I heard things that were similar to my experiences. And the professor began to, Dr. Sarah Plummer, she began to explain how those interactions that a lot of the young women had with male family members weren't right. And she also began to break down the psychological component, the abuse component, how it was actually sexual assault and how you were a minor and all these different things. And I just bust out crying in class. At that moment, I said to myself, if I'm going to help other people get through what they need to get through in their lives, I need to talk to someone about what I'm going through in my life. I started seeing a therapist. So the turning point for me was, one, acknowledging that I needed help, two, seeking the help. And the third one is, during the journey, I realized that I had to be patient with myself. But I didn't have the words that I have now. Like, this actually took time to build and to learn. So at that time, I would just say, like, I'm not doing this today. And I would set my mind on what I was going to do today. So in other words, I would say, I need a break, and my body is not in a space where I can take any more dumping or venting. Like, this right here, what I already shared, is enough for me to work on probably for like the next couple months. But I also took out time frames. But during that time that I knew that I needed to change something, and I needed help to change what cannot be touched or seen, is when it became a pivotal and critical moment for me. So fell in the ninth grade 3 times was not just because I didn't understand the work or I wasn't able to complete it. My first year I failed was because I wasn't going to class. I was cutting. The second year I failed, my sister had a baby who needed a lot of attention and care. And because of her level of care she needed, I had to assist. My third year, which was the year that I actually ended up graduating, was due to me being locked in the basement for almost a year. So the gentleman that I was with didn't allow me to go to school, only when he wanted me to. So going to school wasn't really a priority of mine, because I was taking care of other things and because I didn't see it as a value at that time in my life. When I think about the things that I experienced during that time, I realized that education wasn't talked about at home. It wasn't talked about amongst my friends. But during that last 9th grade year, I had a social worker, Miss Frierson, who spoke about my intelligence and who spoke about my power and who spoke about who she see me becoming. And it reminded me of my grandfather. I think that was around the time that I started having memories of things that he spoke to me about as a child that just started coming back to the forefront of my mind. And during that time, I had just got out of that relationship, and I had about 6 weeks to try to complete work that should have been completed throughout the year. So I was in school before school started, and I was in school after school hours completing the work. And all I could think about was, what happens if I do succeed? I already know what happens for me failing. I already know what it looks like for me not to know what I want or how to do things. But I had something that I didn't have in a very long time, and that was support. So it definitely did change my view on education. And it also helped me see that I needed assistance when it came to reading and comprehension and different things like that. So I had to find out the hard way how to obtain them things and how to apply myself. Okay, so now that I am in the process of getting my PhD will be in education. Just to give you guys a little background of what it's in. I plan on showing how our connectedness to nature allows us to become stewards of the land, but also increases our ability to connect with others and help us succeed when it comes to education. Can't tell y'all how I'm going to do it, so I had to choose my words very wisely. But going from a 0.9312 in my first year of college to being on the dean's list, to creating an organization, to building businesses, and now getting a PhD, education has been my safe haven. Education has allowed me to travel. Education has created a new curiosity within me when it comes to different cultures, when it comes to people, when it comes to the land, when it comes to my existence. Going through this process with this PhD program, my first semester, I just ended probably like 3 weeks ago. I questioned if I was good enough to even be in there because, one, in the specialization that I chose in the education degree, it was only 7 people chosen. And out of those 7 people, I was the only Black one. Black woman, to be exact. And so it made me nervous. And the first thing I did was I called to and I was like, oh my goodness, like, it's only 7 people. I'm the only Black person. Like, I don't know if I'm able to connect with them. I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. And like, all of those worries and different doubts that I had in my earlier years showed back up. And I was just like, calm down. And listen to him explain to me, like, Ahava, like, you really worked hard to get here and you deserve it. And what you're about to do for yourself and for our people is going to be monumental. He was like, you are the tip of the spear this time. And whenever things get hard for me during this process, I take a moment to think about where I was to where I am now. And I think about my gratefulness rather than my struggle. And I go in my toolbox. I'm like, okay, so I don't understand this. How can I find a way to perform better? How can I think about what I can do next? And it allows me to be more confident in my work and my contributions to the classroom, to the community still. And I see this as a way of breaking those generational curses. And the beautiful thing about how I'm doing it is I'm allowing my daughter and my nephews and my niece to see that they are capable of greatness too. And from my knowledge, I will be the first doctor in my family. So this is a very legendary move that will continue to bring hope and light in dark spaces in my family and in the community, because I actually get to speak on some things and I won't be questioned about my credentials or my experience based on some of the things I'm going to be bringing awareness to. Okay, so how has my spiritual journey assisted my healing journey? My journey began in 2018. So this was 2 years after I started school at Rutgers. A little bit time has passed since I've been in therapy, and I took my first flight out of the country to South Africa, Cape Town, Johannesburg. And when I got there, first of all, I thought it was crazy because that was my first flight ever, and I decided to do a learning abroad. It was ridiculous. It's like 18 hours. One of the first activities I signed up for was hiking to the top of Tabletop Mountain, which is one of the deadliest mountains in the world. And I had just had my daughter. I was very depressed, very unhappy. I had gained a massive amount of weight, and it was a struggle going over and climbing and doing what I had to do to get to the top of this mountain. And it took me about 4 hours. When I got to the top of the mountain, all I could see is water. And it was so much water that when I looked like into the distance, you didn't even see water, you just saw the sky. And at that moment, I looked around and I said, I'm in South Africa. I am in a place I never dreamt of being. I'm alive, and I didn't see past, I didn't see myself past what I was going through. And I looked to the sky and I said, everything that I have experienced that is not helping me elevate in my life and feel alive, I'm going to leave at the top of this mountain. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know what my next step was going to be after that, but I spoke out loud to myself, to God, to the universe, to the land. And I said, I am going to create the woman that I want to become. I am going to create the life that I want to live. That doesn't mean that nothing is going to happen that's going to make me feel sad ever again. But what that meant was I was choosing life, and I was choosing to be free, and I was choosing to release myself from the bondages of my past. that is when I decided that a part of that change was going to come a name change. I wanted my name to represent who I am and who I was becoming and who I will continue to become. And I also wanted my name to be a reminder of how I would speak to people and how I would speak to myself and how I would treat others, which is why I chose Ahava. Well, Ahava chose me. Ahava means love in Hebrew. So I work really hard at being mindful of what I say and the things that I do and what I represent. And a part of me choosing that name also began my spiritual journey and me looking a little further into my beliefs and me looking at how my beliefs would affect my behavior and the actions that I took. And the way that has helped my healing journey is I became more intentional. I do have moments where I'm not operating at my best, but we all do. But I'm able to recognize it. And I'm also able to say that there are areas in me that needs a little more work. So my healing and my spirit are one. Those are not two different things. And I can't do one without the other. If you are someone who is experiencing domestic violence, any type of mental, verbal, physical, or emotional abuse, ask yourself this one question. If I was to die today, would I be happy with how my life is? If your answer is no, then that means it is time for you to do something different so that you can create the life that you want to live. Life isn't supposed to just be full of pain and misery and hurt. There will be moments, but what happens when you begin to heal and you begin to release, you learn how to maneuver, and you learn how to accept, and you learn how to let go, and you learn how to move forward. You learn how to pivot. But if you are dying internally, then there's nowhere else you can go than up. And if you need help with going or getting out of the space that you're in, reach out to someone. I know one of the tactics that are used when you're experiencing abuse is isolation. Start finding people who you can connect with so that they can assist you with your escape plan, because that's what it is. It is an escape plan. And just know that you are worthy of love. You're worthy of happiness. You're worthy of care. You are worthy of acceptance. And everything you are worth comes from you first, and then others.